Hey everyone, thanks for joining our live demo today on Valentine's Day. If you're joining from the US or a country that has taken on Valentine's Day as your own, thanks for joining. If you have any questions at all during this very short demo, please go ahead and ask it in the comments section of whichever platform you are using to watch us on. Today, we're going to continue talking about the Microsoft integration with Maestro. If you're not familiar with Maestro, we are a DDI overlay solution. So if you're looking for a solution to manage your DNS, DHCP, and IPAM all in the same place from either the GUI or from the API, Maestro is a great place to go. Of course, we offer a free trial if you just want to try it out on your own. We're a non-disruptive solution, meaning you can install us in your environment without having to point your endpoints or target them directly at us, right? It'll continue running as you have always run it, but you'll just get better visibility and better control. Like I said, you can get started today with the free trial. You can watch our Maestro tutorials on how to get it installed in your environment. And hopefully, in less than a half an hour, you'll be off to the races. Today, though, like I said, we are going to concentrate on the Microsoft integration. So last time we met a week or two ago, we talked about how we integrate with Active Directory sites and using IPAM and DHCP and not having to reinvent the wheel, right, when it comes to Microsoft Active Directory. Today, we are going to mostly concentrate on the DNS portion of things, but I did want to point out, right, that you can do an SSO login, right, either through Microsoft Active Directory or through login with Azure if you're using Azure AD. We'll go ahead and log into Maestro here, though. And I'm going to start in the admin tab today, actually, under service management. So it's very easy to add a Microsoft server. This would be the same for adding a DHCP server, right? We just go to add DNS server. And then if our DNS lives on our domain controller, or maybe we have a separate DNS server, we would just add that here. We'll give it the FQDN. We'll give it, obviously, an IP address. And then select the service type, of course, would be Microsoft in this case. Now, what I do want to point out for Microsoft is that as long as you have an agent installed on just one of the servers within your forest, that's all you need. And then we can communicate with the rest of the servers. And that's what this agent free checkbox is for and the proxy information. So I would only have to install that agent in one server in the entire domain, right? So I don't have to worry about installing those agents and updating them and making sure that everything is working well, right? We can use proxy service for that. So that's just a fantastic integration that we have with Microsoft. That works for DHCP as well. Another thing to note about this, right? And you'll see in this example, I'm using DC, right? Domain controller. So if you are using your domain controller to maybe serve out DHCP addresses or to manage your DNS, but you're weary of giving access permissions directly to the domain controller, this is one way to kind of work around that, right? You would no longer have to do that. You would just do access management via Maestro. People would log into Maestro rather directly to your domain controller. So you no longer have to worry about those kind of security issues. And of course, just, accidental human error, that kind of thing. As you can see, I'm just going to discard these changes because we have several servers in here and we can see, what's a Microsoft DNS server, what's a Microsoft DHCP server. I can see whether it's a domain controller or what kind of DNS I'm working with, whether, primary, secondary, caching, etc. We can do all sorts of things right here. We can do it in bulk for the servers if we like. So just wanted to point that out. Now, if I go into DNS, I actually have AD integrated as an option right here in the left-hand panel. So just like we showed in DHCP, we offer these kind of commonly used filters right here in the left panel, and then we can easily see everything that is part of, the Active Directory DNS. So if you are using multiple DNS services, right, whether that comes from Microsoft on premises, maybe you're using Bind as well, or maybe you're using like Route 53 or Azure DNS or some sort of public cloud or externally managed DNS service provider, right? If you're doing multiple things, we make it really easy to parse these things out. And then, of course, we can do things very easily like, for example, view the history. Now, imagine if you are just using Microsoft DNS and you have multiple DNS servers, right? Because we want things to be redundant. Maybe we have different locations. When we have a DNS issue, then of course we have to go through each of those servers, generally parse through the server logs, try to find the DNS issue itself. Right here, I just clicked on the offending DNS zone, and I was able to see immediately what's been happening, who did it, when it happened, and of course, this is just a whole lot easier having these kinds of audit trails. And we go back several days or years even, right? So I know a lot of our competitors only go back 90 days. You can see I have information here from 2021. So that is very helpful. And of course, then we can do all sorts of things from a Microsoft perspective, right? Because we are an overlay solution, we pull capabilities in from the underlying service. So in the case of Microsoft, for like DHCP, you may need to reconcile the HCP scopes. There might be specific things to Microsoft that, of course, as an overlay solution, we can offer you. We also offer the ability to do XDNS. Now, XDNS is DNS in and of itself is a redundant protocol, a redundant technology. But what you can't get easily and automatically from DNS is multi service DNS redundancy. And we actually offer that. That's a unique offering to Maestro. So if you do have multiple services, maybe you are using Microsoft on premises and you're using Azure AD, you can actually create an XDNS profile over here in admin configuration, and then once you've created this profile, which is very easy, you just give it a name, description, tell it whether you want it to overwrite or merge records if it needs to, and then add in your DNS services, right? Which ones you want to use? Maybe again, it is a Microsoft service as well as Azure DNS, or maybe it's Microsoft on-prem and AWS or some other externally managed DNS service, and then you can easily add these zones to an XDNS profile and therefore getting built-in DNS redundancy. So if one of your services is taken down by a denial of service attack, for example, which is becoming more and more common, unfortunately, we are the one solution that can help you prevent that, your DNS outage. You see there's a pre-flight check as well that goes on. Is this going to work? How do I know I can have confidence that this kind of course, we build that in for you. Going back to Active Directory integrated zones, obviously everything that you need to, whether again like it's a primary zone or a caching service, whatever you need to do from a DNS perspective, we can provide that for you within Maestro from a centralized view, giving you the right access management, going beyond Active Directory users and groups integration with DNS with 80 sites and subnets, and all of that good stuff. And then, of course, taking it one step further to give you the best redundancy. And we do have a question. Endpoint requires SSL certificates. So you know what? I am going to have to double check on exactly what you mean from that perspective. We don't, of course, require SSL certificates in order to provide, DNS records and things like that. If you're talking more just along the lines of using DNSSEC, we, of course, will use DNSSEC. We don't necessarily provide it. What we do is we pull in that capability. So if you are using DNSSEC in your on-premises or in your off-premises environments, then we'll of course, show you that you have some DNSSEC zones, right? But that's kind of as far as we take it. Again, we're just that overlay solution that kind of gives you the ability to manage and gain visibility and observability, and orchestrate everything. So great question. Thank you for that. And if you want to kind of clarify what you mean by that as well, but again, we will absolutely work with DNSSEC zones. All right. Well, thanks everyone for watching. That's all we have for today. And we'll be back in just a couple weeks with more Microsoft integration. Thanks for watching.